Everybody, welcome back to Diet Rebellion. Today we're joined by Shana Butler, who is a certified personal trainer, nutrition coach, and reverse dieting specialist, dedicated to helping women over 40 lose fat, build muscle, and improve their metabolism, and even more importantly, their mindset. After overcoming years of overexercising and chronic dieting, Shana transformed her own body at the age of 40 and now empowers women to achieve the same results through strength training and sustainable nutrition. Inside of today's episode, we talk everything mindset, muscle, metabolism, and nutrition, and how you can actually start applying it today. There's a few things that will probably break some beliefs and leave you feeling more free than you came. And about halfway through the episode, please note there is a quick disruption in the connection while we were podcasting. So just skip through that or kind of turn your volume down, but we do pick up. There's no more problems afterwards, and I hope you love the episode. Welcome to Diet Rebellion, the podcast that's here to help you break free from the chains of dieting and finally take control of your health, strength, and confidence. I'm Joe Hoye, your host and the founder of Diet Detox. After transforming the lives of thousands of women over 40 who have been trapped in the endless diet cycle, I'm here to show you a new way, one that focuses on eating for your body's needs, restoring your metabolism, and rebuilding your strength for life. Get ready for real, no bullshit conversations, expert insights, and actionable strategies that empower you to live diet-free and thrive. It's time to stop restricting and start rebuilding. Join the rebellion. Your journey starts now. Shana Butler, welcome to Diet Rebellion. How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. And I'm super excited to have you here because scrolling through your Instagram, looking at what you do on a daily basis is, number one, the thing that all of our clients literally need to do in order to reach their ideal body and, more importantly, their ideal life. But I mean, to me, when I look at what you do, you've just massively simplified it, which is amazing. Nutrition, exercise, mindset, you name it, you're a pro. How did you get into this?
Oh, fitness has always been something that's a passion for me. And I want to start by saying thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here. Fitness has always been something that's a priority for me. I had really bad depression and anxiety when I was in my 20s. And so to come out of that, fitness was kind of my saving grace, that and my faith. So it was always something that was a part of my world. But, I'm 45. So growing up in the era I was in, in the 80s and even the 2000s, a lot of the messaging that was out there was eating less, moving more. And I got stuck kind of just being obsessive about being small, burning calories, eating very little. And so while fitness can be a very healthy thing, there's also this fine line where it can become something that's not healthy and something that's obsessive. And so I was in that place for a long time. Didn't really know kind of how to align everything in terms of taking care of myself, reaching aesthetic goals, but also being healthy. And so it took a while for me to kind of get everything together. I unknowingly was under eating pretty massively to where my cycle stopped, hormones got all dysregulated, mentally I was a mess. So little by little, with the help of my now husband, I started to embrace like muscle and protein and kind of understood a little bit more of what that looked like. But it was hard to fight old programming, and I still stayed afraid of lifting heavy, getting bulky, eating too much, and lived in this kind of all or nothing mindset. And my goal or my motivation was to go to the gym was because I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. And so I was striving to change that relationship, but it wasn't possible to do it in the way that I was. And so once I had my son, I had him when I was 39, we had a hard time conceiving. So once I was pregnant, once I had him, it was the first time I was not worried about what my body weight was, what aesthetically I looked like. I just wanted to make sure he got into this world healthy and happy. So it was the break that my body needed, that my head needed. And what was really cool was that, that break away from chronic dieting and over exercising allowed my body to reset, even though I was like a new parent and dealing with like all those crazy times of sleepless nights, I was still in a much better place. And I also just mentally made a big shift because I now knew that this little person was going to be watching and learning from everything I did. So I wanted to show him what true self-love looked like. And so that was the beginning of a brand new relationship with fitness, with nutrition, with taking care of myself because I loved who I was versus hated who I was. And this isn't like an overnight thing. And it's a process, but I think it's an important one, especially, for women who are now my age. There's a lot of other changes in life. And so I just think it's an important thing to really dive into taking care of yourself and doing it for the right reasons, for yourself, for the people you love. So anyway, once I kind of made that transition, I just wanted to pay it forward because I know there are other women who are out there who feel like I did, who feel stuck, who feel just like they just can't get one foot in front of the other. And it is so freeing to be on this side. I can't tell you, just to not have that anxiety about food or about, my body or just you name it. So that's my goal now, is to help that woman who is where I was, and to just give her the keys to unlock her best self. And really, my coaching is becoming her. And that's exactly what I want to help women do, is become her, that best version of themselves.
Super aligned with what I say 90% of the time. That's so cool. What I see is there's such a similarity between so many people that turn into coaches, right? Like we struggled. We
Yes.
got to maybe close to where we wanted in the completely wrong way. Generally,
Yes.
we
Right.
hated ourselves into that body. Then we learned somehow that we need to love ourselves into that body. And then once we find the right path, we're like, oh shit, I don't ever want anybody to go through the experiences and the struggles and the roadblocks that I had. So I'm going to be
Right.
that person that helps guide them to their outcome faster, easier, better. I love it.
Yeah.
The thing that I love the most is what you just said at your very last sentence. Something along the lines of like, I want everybody to become her. I want them to become the best version of themselves. And I love
Yes.
that because I think that version of themselves doesn't just embody like having the stomach you want or the legs you want or the butt you want. Like
Hmm.
it has every freaking thing. It has the mindset,
Yeah.
the health inside, the
Yeah.
self-worth, the self-confidence, the boundary setting. Like every single thing is the best version of themselves. And so it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you do a whole lot more than just helping somebody reach an ideal body.
That's my goal, because I do believe it's a whole picture. It's not just, you can implement a meal plan, a workout plan, but there's so much more that goes into a true transformation inside and out. And I really feel like it is an inside out process because, as if you're not dealing with that inner voice and that inner relationship, then it's so easy to self-sabotage, which I've done countless times, not feel worthy, or just, like I said, get in your own way. So I think is an inside out job, and marrying the two, where you have the right plan, but then also you're kind of you're reframing your mindset and you're rewiring your thoughts, and you're starting to lean on becoming that cheerleader for yourself and holding yourself accountable, but still giving yourself grace on the journey.
I want to cover all that. Like if we have enough time today, I'd love to cover all of it, but I want to work in
Yeah,
reverse. And
sure.
I think that what you just said is simply put, the reason why diets and workout programs alone don't work. Because yes, they're going to get you a immediate result, but you're not going to change who you are at the core. You're not going to
Yeah.
change your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions, the things that make up what you do subconsciously. And so as
Right.
soon as that diet stops, well, guess what? You're left with who you were, right?
Yeah.
Your old thoughts, your old actions, your old behaviors. And because of that, you're going to get your old results. So they always go back. And so how
Right.
do you start to change who somebody is at the core? How do you help to evolve that? I don't really like the word change. I like evolve. So how do you do that?
It's a combination of things, but one of my favorite practices to have someone do is to have a conversation with themselves, from the standpoint of you talking to that younger version of you, because we all still have that person within us. Likely there was something along the way that interrupted, because if you see children, they are so confident. They're enamored with their reflections. They're so proud of what they can do. And it's not until life happens, and then we start to doubt ourselves, or maybe somewhere along the line, someone told you should feel badly about something. And so that stays in your subconscious mind. And it is something that's just going to haunt you. So, I do like to have someone go through that practice of, what did you need to hear? What did you need to hear at 12 years old? Or would you say the things that you're saying to yourself, to that younger version of yourself, and just try to change the perspective of what you would say to yourself now, based on, like, look at yourself as you are talking to that younger version of yourself, and tell her what she needs to hear. Tell her how strong she is, how capable she is, how resilient she is, how proud of everything that she's managed to make it through. Because, most of the women I'm working with are in their 40s or even above. And so they've lived a lot of life. They've made it through some really hard seasons. And so they need to just feel good about that and give themselves some credit for getting to the place that they are. And then it's a lot of kind of like reframing your thoughts on specific things. So trying to detach away from that all or nothing mindset where, it's like you get one that example of, if you had one flat tire, you wouldn't go around and just stab the other three and flatten them all. So the same thing has to be applied and practiced with your fitness and your nutrition. Just because you had a missed day in the gym, just because you had an off day with your nutrition, don't necessarily focus on being perfect. Instead, just try to be consistent. And I also like to encourage my clients to become the CEO of their life. So when you think about a CEO, when they're looking at problems that come up, they don't necessarily shame, blame, and hold on to focusing on the problem. What they do is kind of examine it, get curious. Okay, why did this happen? Can we prevent it in the future? And what strategies can we implement so that we can master this the next time it comes around? And there might be circumstances that you can avoid or might not have something to default on. But when you do that, again, you become more resilient as these things come up, and it takes that all or nothing away, which is so important, just to continue to make progress.
I love that. That's huge. I love the CEO thought process of, like, don't be problem focused. Just, if you find a problem, be solution based. Like, go fix
Yes.
that shit. I
Right.
loved it.
Right. Yeah, no,
Great.
and that's how you take your power back. It's like, even when there are circumstances that are outside of your control, like a problem arises, and listen, it's outside of your control, but what are the things you can control? Put your energy and focus up there, and that's where you can take your power back.
Yeah, locus of control. Do you talk about that with your clients?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The locus of control.
I don't know if I've heard that before.
And so it's exactly, you just haven't heard that name because you're explaining it, right? It's like, what is inside of your circle of things that you actually have control over? And then outside of that, like, what are things that are happening that maybe you don't like, but you can't do anything about?
Right.
Okay, well, screw that. Don't pay attention to it. Let's focus on what you can control that might change that one thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Now you have the phrase you could put to it, but you've already known it. I love it. Now let's dive into nutrition. How has that changed for you? Because, I mean, gosh, I've worked with women 40 plus for the last 5 years. 90% of them are inside the box that you described. Like, hey, I can't take up too much space, which means I can't eat too many calories. And ultimately, I don't think calories at large are good for me. So I'm going to limit these. Like, how did you get out of that?
It was an evolutionary process. It was part learning, part me reading and understanding that, fuel is important for your body to run optimally. And that all of that really started to hit home when I was pregnant, and then also when I was postpartum. So I knew that it was more important for me to nourish myself so that, number one, my baby was growing, and then afterward I was nursing. So same idea. And I started to understand how impactful the right fuel, the right nutrition also helped me feel better. And that's something that another thing that I like to talk to clients about is not considering themselves a dieter, but considering themselves an athlete. And as an athlete, you want to think about, how can I perform my best? How can I recover my best? And again, that just reframes the mindset of, like, you're feeling badly about something to, okay, as an athlete, I'm going to examine my performance. What could I have done better to perform at my best or recover my best? And so, I grew up in the era of, around the time that I started dieting, South Beach diet was around, then it was Atkins. And so carbs was definitely something I feared for a long time. And I like to be very open with nutrition. I really like to encourage someone to become the master their own master of themselves. Like listen to your body, see what it likes, see what it prefers. How do you feel when you're having certain foods? I don't believe in like saying something is off limits, but I also believe that the more protein you have, the more fiber, whole foods, you're naturally going to feel better. So it's kind of finding that balance. But I also think that there's value, just as much as there's value in having whole foods and protein and fiber and all of those things, there's also value and importance to sharing and making memories with your family on a holiday or a vacation. And so living in that rigid mindset of like you can't do this or this is bad and I can't have it, I just think sets you up for a bad relationship with yourself, because then if you do in fact have that food, then you're taking on that assignment of being bad. And so anyway, yeah, with nutrition, I like to keep it very balanced, make sure I'm fueled. I like to make sure my clients feel fueled. And even if we are in a calorie, we live day forever, and then we make sure to a healthy place can be in a happier, low stress place.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, gosh, we're so aligned on number one, mindset, number two, how we do diet. Really, like, you didn't go down the list and mention all the macros and then all the micronutrients. We don't need to get that microscopic with things. Like, we need to focus on the few things that make a difference for us.
Right.
And then at the same time, like, I'm the same way as you. Like, I have, I don't know what size it is, a pint, a gallon, you name it, of ice cream in my freezer.
Right.
And when I want it, I go get it, because you know what? I'm a person. And like, if me and my wife want to like laugh and like pick on each other and go have ice cream and sit in the kitchen together before bed one night, like, great. That's fun for us. And it's not going to ruin us. It's not going to make us bad. And I think everyone needs to do that. Hey, it's your host, Joe Hoye, and we're going to get back to the podcast in just 1 second. But really quickly, I wanted to tell you about a new challenge that I just launched, all around fat loss, doing it sustainably, and most importantly, teaching you to keep the weight off for the rest of your life simply. Now, in this challenge, there's no calorie counting, there's no food locking. I am personally going to build you your food and fitness programs as you sign up for the program, so that as you enter inside of the 4-week coaching program with me, you have zero guesswork in terms of, are you doing the right things for food and fitness, and are you going to lose weight when you jump on the scale at the end of the week? All of those questions have been answered for you. I guarantee your progress. And the reason I did that is because we needed to simplify the food and fitness aspect so that you can now start focusing on the more important thing, the thing that's going to keep weight loss off forever. You, the person you are, your identity, your thoughts, behaviors, and actions that you make every single day that are either going to make or break your success long term. So if you're interested in that, go to the show notes, click on the very first link called reshape.hoyfit.com, and I'll see you in the next challenge. Now let's get back to the show, right? Because if you don't, you just fail. Like, you just go ahead with what you're going to say. But I think that people ultimately, like, if you deprive yourself for too long, when you do have that ice cream, you're going to have a whole damn thing instead of just a couple bites.
That's where I was for a long time. I had this very rigid, like in the gym 6 days a week, almost 2 hours. I was eating like prepped chicken and rice out of Tupperware for the whole week. And then on the weekend, I would just go ham, and I would stuff myself to a point where I would be uncomfortable, wake up bloated and exhausted on a Monday and feeling guilty. And it was so opposite of what health and balance should look like. So, but I understand it's scary, you know, when you're first trying to lean into maybe allowing yourself some things. But once you have that, like you said, once you have that idea of like, well, I can have this anytime I want to, I just have to keep it within a specific moderation. And once you understand that you can do that, you can incorporate your favorite foods every single day if you wanted to, it kind of removes that lack mentality around food, and you find yourself maybe not even wanting it as much. You know, that food noise does tend to go away if you are more flexible, I have found.
I find the same thing. I mean, look, for me, if somebody tells me I can't have something, whether it's somebody outside my life or it's me being like, I can't have that, it just gets multiplied. It gets so much louder of like, well, now I really want it. And as I say no, it just gets louder and louder. And I think people across the board are generally the same. I'm interested from you, right? Because ultimately you're helping women generally lose weight, probably gain some muscle at the same time, right?
Yes.
How many calories do you find that they eat on average? I know everybody's different.
I mean, on the average, anywhere from like 1200 to 1500. And I mean, it's tough because I understand like sometimes when you're in that place where you're really restrictive, you might have days where things are above that. So maybe their overall average is a little bit above that, but a lot of them are really in that lower calorie range and thinking that that's where they have to be. So sometimes when we're starting together, depending on their goals and depending on what their history has been, we take a break from fat loss. We just help their body recover and take them out of that stressful deficit phase and just help to just reset everything, upregulate metabolism, help their hormones, help their sleep, help their digestive issues. I mean, because all of those things can just they downregulate. The longer you're in that lower calorie place, the more it can impact different things. I know one of the first times I did a reverse diet more structurally, one thing I was shocked at because I was constantly dealing with like bloating, different things. I found the more food I had, slowly and surely I increased it, the better my digestion got. And then it was like, okay, that makes sense because everything slows down as energy intake slows down. So it just makes sense. So it's nice to affirm and confirm with women like, yeah, my body can handle more food and actually I can thrive with it. I can feel my best with more calories versus less.
It's a really freeing feeling for them, huh? It's
So
like,
liberating, yeah.
because I'm sure for you, like for years, maybe even decades, you had this belief that I need to live in this 12 to 1500
Oh
range.
yeah. Yep.
What did you get up to personally for calories?
My first, I did like an official bulk, so I was anywhere from like 25 to 27, which
Yeah.
was that was a lot of food. So now I kind of like hang out at like 22 to 23. And unless, I'm in a fat loss phase, if I want to tighten up for the summer, then I might go into like 17, 18. But generally speaking, 23 is, I mean, it's so much more flexibility. And, I also kind of let myself have, if I'm not hungry one day, then I don't get so nuanced with the numbers.
Mhm.
And if I'm more hungry, then I allow that too. So it's been nice to kind of just find a happy medium and just feel like you're in a flow.
I always loved hearing from, so my wife's a coach too. I love hearing from
Okay.
her and from hearing from you. It's like, yeah, because she had the similar story of the binge restrict, like binge,
Yeah.
binge, binge. I mean, restrict, restrict, restrict. Like I can't do it anymore, binge a ton. And so then it sounds like you both found out you can eat so much more food. Like imagine the lady, the other person, or the next person you coach that is eating 1200 calories a day. And now you're
Yeah.
bringing them up to 2300. Wow, the scale doesn't go up. Maybe their body lets go of inflammation. So this
Yeah.
maybe it drops. Maybe their clothes feel better. Their face is more slim. They have more
Yeah.
energy. But I don't even think about that most of the time. I think about, again, like that freeing feeling of just this sigh of relief. Like
Yeah.
I get to enjoy and I get to
Yeah.
not pay so much attention every single day to what I'm eating. And like, it's got to be such a great feeling.
So it's incredible. And I know it's scary. It's a scary thing when
Yeah.
when you've worked so hard to lose fat, and even if you're not at your goal, someone's telling you like, okay, we're gonna start eating more, and you're like, okay, that's the opposite of what I want to do. But luckily I've worked with some incredible women that even though they might think my approach sounds totally obscure, they trust the process. And I have one client in particular, she had been in a deficit. She had some great results with a previous coach, but was kind of stuck at 1500 calories. Weight wasn't budging. Definitely was experiencing some diet fatigue because it was over a year. And so that's exactly what we did. We took a break, reverse dieted her. We projected that we would cap off at around 2000,
Mhm.
and her body was still losing at 2000. So we kept going and she got up to 2300 calories and she averaged around the same weight. Some days she'd even be like 2 to 3 pounds less. Her waist came down, all the things you just mentioned. Her digestion improved, her energy, her sleep. And she said to me exactly what you said to me, which is like, she's like, this defies everything I've ever thought about dieting. And I just feel so free. I feel so liberated because I know now that I don't have to stay stuck, just eating salads all the time.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, the even cooler thing is I love that you said you're like, we projected she was going to end around 2000, which I'm sure you use like a TDEE calculator
Right.
as a guess.
Yeah.
But then, and guys, so if you're listening, like if you ever hear a coach say that, that's your green light or like the light bulb moment that like, oh shit, this is a really good coach. Because you don't just go off of some equation that somebody made in like the 1990s or 80s.
Right.
Like, you know what? I understand that's an algorithm as a
Yeah.
rough but educated guess, but
Right.
it's also not the truth. And so we're going to push this until we see some resistance
Yeah.
from our data marker, which is the scale or how our clothes fit. And so, man, I mean, we've had the same experiences in our coaching where it's like, yeah, we'll project that you're around like 2000, 2200. We got one girl up, granted, she was doing CrossFit like pretty heavily. We got her up to
Okay.
like 2900 calories.
Wow.
And her day was like, all right, I hit my protein goal. Now what? And she was just like crushing her favorite foods, but her body was changing in the best way possible. It's so good.
Right. It's so good. It's so
I
good.
love
And
it.
it's like I said, it's so liberating to know that you can enjoy your life and not necessarily have to just live in that restricted place.
Not only do you not have to, but you shouldn't.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that should, I think one of the biggest pitfalls for women in their 40s is most of us have started like our relationship with dieting in our 20s and we just never left. We just chronically were just in and out of yo-yo diets, trying this, trying that, and never really allowed ourselves like time to recover and stay in maintenance for a period of time and just understand like and I understand why there's a lot of information out there. It's a lot to process, and I don't think I know for a long time I didn't recognize that should have been a temporary thing to achieve a goal and then go back to maintenance. So I understand why it happens for women, but that's like again my goal is just to help enlighten them so that they understand how to take care of themselves for the long term.
Yeah. You just said something that gave me a light bulb moment. So you're 45, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So many times because I've worked with this population 40, 50, 60 plus for the last 5 years, I'll have somebody come to me and they'll say, Joe, I used to be able to lose weight, right? 20s or 30s, but now I
Yeah.
can't. And I think it's because of my age, my hormones, perimenopause, menopause. What are your thoughts there?
So I think it's multi-layered and it's definitely not one size fits all. You can't just say, you
Right.
are not able to lose weight because of this, and that's going to apply to everyone. I think there's some of the biggest players here, though, are loss of muscle tissue. We start to experience loss of muscle in our 30s, especially when that's coupled with chronic dieting, chronic over-exercising, and maybe not prioritizing protein. So you combine those things and it just kind of creates this cascade of events to where at 40, especially then, now we have some hormonal shifts. So when your body is storing fat now, it's going right to your midsection, making it just you're more aware of it. It's more comfortable. Maybe our set point with calories is lower because now we've lost muscle. We've been dieting for long periods of time. And so it becomes this unfortunate event where you can't get out of your own way because of all of those things. So I like to keep it simple and just kind of help women understand what really does drive metabolism. Like what are the key things that we can focus on so that we can optimize our bodies to perform maybe like they did in our 30s or in our 20s. And that's going to be all of the things that I just mentioned that change, which is muscle, protein, staying active, just with walking and making sure that we're nourishing ourselves and focusing on those things. And I think when you do that, it does take some consistency and some time. So you have to be in it for the long game. But when you can do that, you absolutely will see big changes with your body, even with the changes that are happening. And that's not to say it's easy. I know it's hard when you are experiencing those hormonal changes. I'm going through some of that now where your nights are sleepless, which is going to impact your hunger, your stress levels, your energy levels, your mood. And then, all of those things just create more of an uphill battle. It's not outside of your reach. And so again, going back to that, focusing on what you can control. There are some things that are outside of your control with hormonal shifts and things of that nature, but dial in on what you can take hold of and just really narrow down on that.
I love this. I'm not saying menopause is not impeding people's weight loss difficulties, but
Right.
I think as a generalization, what you just mentioned is far more true for far more people than hormones or menopause.
Yes. Yes, because even if, and I talk to women who are on HRT, so they're
Yeah.
already optimizing their hormones and they're still having trouble. And so it's when you have to lean on those habits. You have to lean on the habits that are going to be the biggest dial movers, which are daily activity, muscle, protein, staying balanced with your nutrition and having the right mindset.
I love this. Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about because you mentioned over-exercising.
Yeah.
And so I know that if anybody's resonating with this entire conversation, they're also probably so confused as to how you can possibly over-exercise.
Right.
So, how much were you exercising? Let's say 20-year-old you
Yep.
versus 45-year-old you. Like, what's changed?
So much. So I leaned heavily on cardio for a long time. I was a runner and I would do sprints. And even my weight training sessions they were not ideal for muscle growth. They were more or less cardio with weights because there
Mm.
would be a lot of supersets, plyos between my sets, jump rope between my sets, just trying to hammer myself into the ground, thinking that the harder I pushed, the better my results would be. And again, that you're fighting a losing battle with that. So now it's very different. And it had to be with my son, but I was ready for something different. I just didn't want to live in the gym. And even with living in the gym, I never saw the body that I wanted. It was always in a chronic state of stress. So even when I saw results, they were minimal at best and I was always feeling like unless I kept up that routine, things would change pretty quickly. So now it's very structured, especially with nutrition. And I'm in the gym 3 days a week, focused on progressive overload. So I do, less work, so to say, but more intentional. It's quality over quantity. And every day I walk, every day I'm trying to stay active that way. And every day I'm making sure I'm getting, going to bed when I can. It's challenging as parents, but you do what you can. You try to optimize it. And so now it's like I said, it's like half of what I used to do, more than that. And it's made the biggest difference. Putting muscle on my body, on my frame has dramatically changed how my body looks, but also performs. I'm sure that has to do, it goes back to, being able to be more flexible with foods, and it's just had a positive impact all around.
I love it. Like looking at your Instagram, I'm literally scrolling it right now. You're
Oh, yeah.
strong. You're
Oh, thank
super
you.
strong. Do you have a picture of you anywhere on here of 20 or 30-year-old you for comparison? Because I'd love to see like more, I mean, less muscled, I guess, versus now. Because like,
I
you have a great build.
Thank you. I don't know if I have one when I was in my 20s. I might have in one of my it would be on like an actual carousel post. But it kind of walks through like the decades of, or the stages, so to speak, of where I was. So it's on there somewhere, but
I love,
it does show me. And even though it's funny because I'm almost the same weight, but dramatically different body.
I love that
Totally
different
different,
composition. Yeah.
different composition. Yeah, absolutely.
And so you're living walking proof of the way that you do things, the way you think, the way you act, the way you behave, the way you eat, the way that you change training. And I mean, I guess the first question is, are you happier now than you were then?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love
Yes.
that.
It's, you know, going back to like changing the relationship with yourself and kind of looking at all of these actions as acts of self-care and self-love and doing these things because I love who I am completely changed the relationship that I had with fitness. And so it's, while there are days where, I'm not necessarily totally motivated, it's
Sure.
a different, I don't know, there's a different feeling that I get from the acts of self-care. And yeah, to think back, I don't know if you saw there was a trend recently going around of like you had coffee with your younger self and like what you would tell her or what her life was in comparison to yours. And I did make some content around that, and it kind of made me emotional because, there was just such a frantic messy mind back then, and to know that I'm in this place of peace and self-acceptance. And, you and I were talking before the show, but one of the things I mentioned was that, getting to this place, it's so beautiful to actually love who you are. And it has nothing to do now with the aesthetics. It really does have everything to do with how I'm approaching things. And when you lean on those healthy habits, inherently, the cherry on top is that the aesthetics come with it. But then you're also just developing this healthy relationship with yourself, with your nutrition, with your fitness. And all of that's just going to flood into the rest of your life in such positive ways, especially, at this age, as things are changing and things are shifting, like you need to be in that good place with yourself so that you can ride the storm, you can give yourself grace, and you can be that best version of yourself for all the people in your life that you love.
I love that. Yeah, I think that that's so true, is that when you change who you are on the inside and at the core, your outside just reflects that as a side effect, right? It just catches up with time and consistency. And so if there's anything that anybody's going to take away from this, it's fuck the diets and the crazy workouts, and
Yeah.
just change who you are as a person in the best way possible. And
Yeah.
everything else will just catch up. But Shauna, as I understand, and I'm not surprised here, your one-on-one coaching's full. Like you literally can't take on another client or your life's going to burst. But you do group coaching, is that right?
I do, yeah. So I also offer a group coaching program, which I really love too. In fact, I just had one of my former group coaching clients on my podcast. So she'll be on my podcast soon talking about her experience. So that program really helps. It's a 12-week program, but what my goal with it is to really lay out the foundation of knowledge and information that someone needs to know, like, what are the real things to focus on when we are looking at body transformation, but overall longevity and health, which I know a lot of women my age are kind of concerned about. Like, we've been through all of the fad diets and the fad workouts, and it's like we understand that there's short-term, not long-term results with those. So while we still want to attain results, we also are now thinking about what our life is going to look like in 10 or 20 years, and know that our actions right now are going to make some big implications as to, how mobile, how independent, how, all of those things are going to be impacted by our decisions right now. So I think it just puts a different perspective on what kind of approach we want to have. So that's what this program is for. While it's workouts, while there's, guidance on nutrition, it really does just simplify the process as to like how we are going to optimize metabolism, how are we going to reframe our mindset so we are resilient and strong and push past those barriers that we might have, and how to layer in the right habits that are just going to help you become that happiest, healthiest version of yourself. And then also we talk about like maintenance, because reaching a goal is one thing, but being able to maintain it while living your life as a whole nother thing. There's a component on that as well, as, as far as just being able to remain flexible, remain continuing to make progress, keep progress while still enjoying your life, and how to navigate, how to course correct when things might go awry, which they will. So it's not about, again, we're going back to that, it's not about perfect. It really just is about consistency and knowing when to course correct, and just being adaptable and becoming that best version of you.
That's amazing. So number one, you're looking long-term, right? We're not just looking at next week's results. We're looking at who you are when you're 60, 70, 80, 90. I love that. And so if somebody wanted to sign up for that, where can they do that, or where can they apply for it? And then if they just want to spend some more time with you and see how jacked you are on Instagram, where can they do that?
So yeah, on Instagram, you can find me at Shauna Teresa, at Shauna Teresa. And then you can go to my website, Becoming Her Fitness. All of my program options are there. And you can also drop me an email. There's an email link on my website. So if you had any specific questions, you can email me, or you can DM me on Instagram. And I do have a podcast as well that I started, and that's Becoming Her, Fitter, Stronger, and Better Over 40. So you can find me there too.
Amazing. Thank you so much today.
Thank you.